Welcome back to the homestead, everybody. Today we're going to do a video on curing our bacon. Welcome back to the kitchen. I was going to do this process of curing bacon yesterday. Unfortunately, with the little incident with the duck in my hands, ended up at urgent care. This morning, as I was out feeding my birds, one of my Muscovy ducks, my drake, got out and he can't fly, so I wanted to make sure he was going to be safe, so I went to pick him up, and I did not have my proper bird handling materials on, and in the process of trying to pick him up, he really gave me a nasty cut on my finger, which is okay, a little painful, but for the most part, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm up to date on my tetanus shot, because it's been so wet and muddy, and they do run through, they run, and their claws can carry all kinds of contaminants. So I'm on my way now to the urgent care to get a tetanus shot. Got the tetanus shot, going to get the antibiotics. Lesson learned. Always wear your gloves when you're handling your birds, so you don't have this happen to your hand. I'm glad it wasn't any worse. But let's go home and cure some bacon. Didn't get the stitches, but I'm all bound up. Got it all wrapped up good, got my gloves on. I'm doing okay, a little sore, but let's pick up where we left off. As you can see here, this is a whole pork side. Still has the skin on. We'll be taking that off. This is a pork side from one of our pigs. We had processed in the fall last year. So I'm going to unwrap this. We're going to get the skin trimmed off. I'm going to trim off some of that excess fat. I don't want that much fat on my bacon. And we're going to portion this down a little bit smaller so it's a little easier to work with. Real quick, I'm going to go over the ingredients. This is a maple cured bacon. I got this recipe from homestead.com. This recipe is for a 3-pound slab of bacon. This here is almost a 16-pound slab of bacon. By the time I trim the skin and the excess fat, it'll probably be somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds. So we'll work with that. But I will post the actual recipe or link to it in the description below. So look for that, and just know to adjust depending on the size of pork belly that you're going to work with. So, just to go over the ingredients real quick, we have brown sugar, kosher salt, pink curing salt, which is optional. I use it because I want to make sure it stays stable, but you don't have to use this because we're going to keep it refrigerated or frozen anyway. Pure maple syrup, fresh ground black pepper, which is not much, don't need much for this recipe. Your tools, you need a knife to work with. You will need water, and we will be using our Berkey filtered water. Other than that, we have a couple of large Ziploc bags. These are the 2.5 gallon bags, I believe, storage bags. I've already labeled them and put today's date on it, because what you're going to do when you get this all seasoned, and you're going to package it in this, and that's going to store in the refrigerator. We have a spare fridge, but you keep it in the bottom of the refrigerator in this bag. We keep it on a tray just in case there's any leakage from the bag. We will put our meat in here, and we will keep it in the refrigerator for a week, 7 days. And each day we'll flip it, and we'll massage the seasonings around on the meat, and just keep that going every day for 7 days, and then we'll finish the process. So this video is not going to be in completion today. We're going to get it started today and then come back in a week and show you our smoking method. So let's get started. Now I had this in my freezer, and I took it out a few days ago to let it thaw in my refrigerator. So it's good and cold. Some people will let this before they season it, will let the meat kind of soften up, let the fat part soften up some, so that the seasonings will permeate the meat a little bit easier. So the first thing I'm going to do though is go ahead and divide this in half, and we'll put each half in its own separate bag. It's just a little easier to work with when it comes time to actual slicing it and storing it and that kind of thing. So you can see it's pretty much a lot of fat up here, so we're going to trim probably a good 1/2 inch off the bottom, and that's going to leave us that little streaky piece there. You can see that piece has got a little more fat. And what I can do too with some of these pieces that may have a lot more fat on them is, for the bacon side, I'll keep the more leaner areas to slice for bacon to be cooked for breakfast and meals and things like that. And then the little fattier portions I'll cut down into chunks and use that for seasoning in green beans and collards and whatever you want to season with your meat. Go right along in here. And I will save the skin and the fat part that I'm discarding here. I'm not going to throw it away. I will most likely render it down, get the fat part off of it, or cook it up for my dogs. I'm just going to kind of peel it back as you cut through. Trimming the fat is easier when it's chilled. It's a little easier to work with, because as it warms, it gets a little less easier to handle. So I'm going to come here and try to trim off a little bit more fat, kind of make it as even as possible. You want fat on your bacon, but not a whole lot of fat. At least I don't. So we're going to swap these out and get this other one cleaned up a little bit. Alright, so like I said, this recipe is for a 3-pound slab of bacon, and I've already got some pre-mixed here. I just have to add the maple syrup to it, but this is my bacon curing salt from what I used last time. That should be enough to do at least 1 slab. Put this into my bowl. It smells really good, y'all. Save that in case I have some more left over at the end. So let's mix up our new batch. Alright, so for each 3 pounds, we need 1/4 cup of kosher salt. So I'm going to plan for 2 batches, so that would be 1/2 cup. And don't worry if you have some left over, because the way I do it is I mix in the maple syrup after I've put the seasoning on the meat and just drizzle that in the bag with the water. So that would be 1/2 cup of the kosher salt. And we need 2 tablespoons. Recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of freshly ground black pepper. I'm going to try to get 2 out of this. I think I can do it. Yeah. Alright. Some black pepper. And brown sugar. It calls for 1/4 cup per slab. I'm going to do 1/2 cup. So, and you want to kind of pack this. Make sure you got an exact 1/4 cup. So that's 1. Alright, that's brown sugar. Now our pink curing salt. We need 3/4 of a teaspoon of the pink curing salt per slab. This is a teaspoon, so I'm going to do 1.5 of these. There's 1.5. It's not very much of the curing salt, so if you're worried about the nitrates that this will add, it's not that much. So, the recipe calls for a 3-pound slab, a 1/2 cup of distilled or filtered water. So that was 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and fill this up to 1 full cup. Alright, set that aside. And then we also are going to need 1/2 cup for this recipe. It calls for a 1/4 cup for the actual recipe. And like I said, I'm going to put the actual recipe in the description, in the comment section, so you'll have access to that, or a link to it through the Modern Homestead website. So it calls for a 1/4 cup. We're going to do a 1/2 cup of maple syrup. And remember, this is going to do both slabs, so it should end up being enough, because we cut right much off of that. We're going to go with that. Now these are the seasonings that I'm just putting together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this in with what I already have over here on the side that I've had from the previous recipe. Make sure to break up those brown sugar clumps so they distribute evenly. Add our other. Now you will rinse the bacon after it's done the 7-day curing before you actually smoke it. You're going to rinse the excess salt and all off. Alright, there's your seasoning blend. And in this bowl I'm going to put in the water and the maple syrup. Okay. Just kind of mix that together good. Alright, now that that's mixed. Now, I want to take one slab at a time. And on this tray, I'm going to use this tray to catch all of the excess seasonings, so I don't make such a mess. Get the bags ready. Already got it opened. What I'm going to do is turn the top back. Kind of keep the top of the bag clean, so when you go to seal it, you don't have to worry about your spices getting in the way and messing up your seal. Alright, so let's start with this piece. Alrighty. I'm just going to sprinkle our seasonings over this. Alright, I'm going to rub it around into the fat, into the meat, on the sides. You want it well covered. This is going to be so good, y'all. I've only done this one time before, and curing meats is something I just started doing last year after we had our pigs processed. And so you really want to take your time and make sure you do it right. You don't want to rush it. You want to make sure you follow the directions, because you would not want this meat to spoil and go to waste. That was the one thing I was afraid of happening. And so far I've done bacon, I've cured a ham, and it's all come out really, really well. Alright, we're going to do this side. And you notice I'm not putting my meaty hands into the seasoning, because if there's any left I want to save it, and you can't save it if you've touched it with hands that touch meat. That's why I'm using a utensil to spread it instead of just grabbing it with my hands. Waste not, want not. You know, if you're living on a homestead and you're trying to be frugal and make your supplies last, you don't want to waste anything. So if you can save it, it will help. So what I'm doing now is just kind of pressing it in on the sides with what's falling off onto the pan. Make sure you get a good coating all the way around. Pressing it in. I'm gonna let that sit. I'm gonna put it right back over here on this cutting board and let that rest for just a minute. Now we start with this one. Okay. You don't want to use table salt either. Just thinking about it. Table salt is more refined. It's been processed. That's why this recipe is calling for kosher salt. Most curing recipes I've looked at use kosher salt. I've seen a few that might use like sea salt, but you don't want to use table salt. But do your research. Do your research, because I mean, it's best to get, you know, several different I guess methods and just kind of see what works best for you. I know I have tried this one before and it works really good. Not had any complaints. Alright, so I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to move this tray out of the way. Alright, now we're going to bag these, and this is where we're going to pour the maple syrup and water mixture into the bag. So slab number 1. Try not to make a mess. You really have to. Alright. Let's see how we can roll that top right up around that, and it keeps it clean. And just kind of lay that out flat. Okay, so we've got both of the bags filled. We have the liquid in. We have sealed them. Got them in our tray. You have them in the tray so that anything that may happen to leak from the bag doesn't make a mess in your refrigerator. So you kind of keep it contained. Just remember, for every day, for the next 7 days, you need to take your meat, you need to turn it, flip it, and massage it. So when you flip it, like tomorrow, this side is label side up. Tomorrow, I will flip it and it will be label side down. So that's how you remember. Just make sure you flip it every day for the next 7 days. Now we'll finish this video up at the end of the week when we get ready to smoke our bacon, and we'll show you the process of how we smoke our bacon here on our homestead. So be sure to hang on, because a week later we're coming back and we're going to smoke up some bacon. And we'll do a taste test at the end to show you how it turned out. So welcome back. We're picking up where we left off last time with the smoking bacon. This is day 8, so we've taken it out of the fridge. I'm giving it a good rinse off to get all the excess salt off. So now I'm just going to pat it dry. You can see that the color of the meat has changed. It's not that bright red as it was before. You can still see some of the pepper from the spices that we used to cure the meat. Now you remember we used maple syrup as part of our curing marinade. So it'll have a little bit of a sweet taste to it. And to accent that, when we are actually smoking it on the grill. So we're going to use a variation of wood chips when we smoke the bacon on the grill to add to that maple flavor that we used in the syrup. And the wood chips I use is a combination of hickory and applewood. So, and I've got these soaking, and I'm just going to leave this pan in the grill when we're doing our smoking. And this part will be over the actual hot coals so that it will steam and add to the smoky flavor from the charcoals we're going to be using on our grill. So I've got the grill started outside. We want to get it to 200 to 225 degrees. This is going to take approximately 3 to 4 hours to smoke, depending on your thickness of your slab of bacon, how big it is. And you can see we've got a pretty good couple slabs of bacon here, so it may take a little longer. you want your internal temp to be somewhere between 150 and 155. Now, with cured meats, you always want to make sure you cook them. Never eat them just straight from the curing process. Always cook them. That way you make sure all of your bacteria, anything that may be in your meat, will be cooked out. So let's head out to the grill. Alright, so we've got our coals hot. It's actually a little hotter than we need it to be, so what I'm going to do is take some of our wet chips and put them right on top of our coals. That's going to help make some smoke, which is what we want. Be careful not to burn yourself. Alright. That going. Then I'm going to take the pan and set it right here. So what we'll do is we'll bring our slabs out and we'll put them over here to the right hand side where there are no coals, so that they get smoked with indirect heat, because you're not trying to cook your meat, you just want it to smoke it slowly. So let's go get our pork bellies and get them put up here, and let's let this thing smoke and do its job. Come back periodically and we'll check on it, see how it's doing, and give them a flip every now and then, and keep a check on our temperature, make sure it doesn't get under 200 degrees. Okay, so we are about almost an hour into our smoking time, and you see our temperature is still hanging around 250 to 260. So let's take a look, see where we are right now with our meat. Doesn't that look good? Looking pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw a little more chips on our coals, add some more water to our pan so we can keep our smoke going. It's coming along well. Looking really good. All right. So we've replenished our wood chips and our water. Flipped our bacon over. Fire is still going good. So we're going to close the lid. Check it back in another hour. You see our temperature has dropped just below 200 here. So I've got another half stack of coals that I am going to add to the grill just to keep the temperature where we want it till we get our bacon up to temp. So let's add that to that now. Alright, so we've got some more coals going. We've added some more wood chips to our coals. We've added more into our steam basket. This is what it looks like right now. I'm getting ready to flip it for a second time. Let you guys see what it's looking like as it comes along. Texture's becoming more firm. Doesn't that look good, guys? We'll go get our meat thermometer and check to see what our internal temp is. I think we're getting pretty close though. Like I said, this is our second hour. We're going into our third hour. So let's check our internal temp and see where we're at. Alright, got that good smoke going. Let's check. I have a digital thermometer here, so I'm going right in the center, about midway. Let's see what we're registering. About 140 or so. Let's check this piece in the back. That's registering about 140. So I say we'll give it another hour and see how it's doing then. But it's looking real good. So we're back. And the meat is ready to be taken off the grill, so let's do that now. All right, let's check our internal temp again. You can remember we said our goal was to get it to 150 degrees. All right, that one's good. Let's try this one. That one's good. So, we know our meat is up to temp. We're going to take it off the grill. Flip this over one more time. Give you guys a nice look at the results. Doesn't that look yummy? And there we have it. Let's take this inside, let it chill for a little while, and then we'll slice it up and freeze our bacon. As you can see, I've already trimmed this slab down just so it fits my meat slicer a little easier. More individual size slices. Now the portions that I have cut off, I'm going to cut into chunks and use it for seasoning in greens and beans and that kind of things. Bean soups, green beans, things like that. So let's get to slicing. I always like to do a test strip first just to see how thick our bacon is going to be. To me, that's a pretty good thickness for what we like. Looks pretty good. Smells really good. So now we've got to this point. What I'm going to do with the rest of this slab is go ahead and cut it down into the size chunks that I want to use it as. So when I vacuum seal the bags, I can just pull the bag out of the freezer and have exactly what I need for whatever I'm using it for, and I don't have to worry about thawing a whole piece of bacon if I don't need a whole piece of bacon. So we're just going to kind of cut it into even chunks, and you can do this however size you want to do it, depending on what you're going to use it for. Now you can even go so far as to take some of this these chunks and make them small pieces. Cook them up if you want to make like homemade bacon bits, that kind of thing. It's up to you, however you want to do it. So I'm just going to put all of this together in this container until I'm ready to package it up. And now we're getting ready to vacuum seal our bacon slices and bacon pieces. I'm going to measure out my bacon by weight. And I've got it set to 0, including the pan, so whatever I lay up here will actually be weighed. So let's start. We're going to lay it out as neatly as possible so we can get it in our bag neatly. Kind of layering it as we go, like they do in the stores. till we get to about a pound's worth. Actually, may only go half a pound because these are kind of some really wide slices. I think we're going to just go with a half a pound. I don't like to put a whole lot into a package because it's just me and my husband here. We don't eat a lot between the two of us. If I ever need extra, I can just take an extra pack out. So what I'm going to do now is take this off. And I'm going to just kind of wrap my wax paper around it to give a little added protection. Let's check this fits in my bag. Slide it in the end. Alrighty. So we got our bacon in there. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to put this top edge inside our food saver. And what I do is I put the smooth edge up. Your label side will be facing you up in the machine. Make sure you put your edge down over that little well. And we're going to close our lid, lock it into operate, and we're going to hit our vac seal button. And you can see that it's sucking the air, and you hear that change in the motor. You know it's really drawing all of that air out. Your seal button will light up, showing you that it's creating a seal. You hear it release that air pressure, and you have a nice sealed pack of home smoked bacon. So we're going to go through, we're going to finish up sealing all of this bacon up and see what we came out with as far as pounds. You know, we started out with a 16-pound slab, including the fat and the skin that before we took all of that off. We're going to find out how much weight of bacon and pieces that we get from that one slab through this whole process. So our finished product, everything is sealed and labeled. We came out with 3 pounds of bacon pieces, bits, and about 6 pounds of slices. So out of that 16-pound pork belly we started with, we trimmed off the fat, we trimmed off the skin, we put that in the freezer to use for another day so it did not go to waste. But what we had left and what we smoked with about 9 pounds of cured bacon and bacon pieces. So not a bad deal. So this will feed us many times because like I said, we don't eat very much. 1 pack was a meal for us, or more than a meal for us, honestly. So, but this is what you get, guys. Raise your own meat. This is our meat, guys, and it's good. It's good. We're going to cook some up a little bit later. We'll show you that. We'll do a taste test on it. Once you've made your own home cured smoked bacon, you don't want the store-bought stuff anymore. Do your research. Like I said earlier in the video, do your research. Find out the method that works best for you. Find out the flavorings and the smoking chips and all of that works best for you. What your flavor is that you like. And do it how you want it done. Your way may be different than our way, but this is what we like. So this is how we do it. I mean, look at that bacon, guys. Isn't that beautiful? We're cooking up the bacon that we smoked and sliced earlier. You need smell-o-vision. That smells really good. Here we go. It's good stuff. Now Chuck needs a chop piece.
That's real good. I like it. Real good. You can taste the flavors. You can taste the smokiness. It's really good. Really, really good. You did a good job.
Thank you. So dinner tonight, home smoked cured bacon from our pigs and eggs from our chickens.
We're having a breakfast dinner.
We're having breakfast for supper.
Breakfast supper.
Breakfast supper.
All right. Well,
All homegrown. We've taken you from start to finish. This is your product. Again, I encourage you to try it. See how it turns out for you. Thanks again for joining us at Good Stewart Homestead. Until next time, God bless.